All right, so let's get into it. So our next speaker today is Miss Ashley Manning. Miss Manning is a leading expert in U.S. defense policy, currently serving as the acting Assistant Secretary of Defense for Cyber Policy. Her career spans both sides of the Atlantic, including key roles in the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy and the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense. It's pretty cool. With extensive experience in cybersecurity, strategic planning, and international relations, Ms. Manning has shaped defense policy at the highest levels. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Ashley Manning.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'm mindful of the fact that I'm standing between you and lunch, which is a very dangerous place to be, but I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today. I want to thank NDU and AFCEA for hosting this event, and I especially want to thank Katie Arrington, Mark Gorak, the rest of the team for all of their leadership on these issues. They are the absolute best battle buddies when it comes to really solving complex problems, figuring out how we're going to build and manage the future workforce of cyber operators and professionals, and I'm just really lucky to have them as part of our team. I wanted to start by reinforcing one of the Secretary's key messages, which is about restoring America's fighting force, which really requires us to be lethal, accountable, and ready. And I wanted to talk today about how we apply that to our cyber workforce. We must improve our posture in cyber, and we have to do this by focusing on our people. Throughout my career, focusing on people and taking care of people has really been a passion of mine, and I feel lucky that I now have the opportunity in this position to be able to support and build the cyber workforce, and also, as Katie said earlier, have the opportunity to listen to all of you and hear your feedback. What are the challenges that you're seeing? What are the inefficiencies you see within the system? What are the barriers to entry? And so as we get to the question and answer period, please provide me some of your thoughts as well, because I really appreciate the fact that I'm with such talented people, and I welcome the opportunity to learn from all of you. I also wanted to take the opportunity to introduce one of my most important advisors, Chief Master Sergeant Brian Newman. He advises me on many things, but especially thinking through the readiness and the resiliency of our cyber workforce based on his vast experience. So thank you so much for being here today, Chief. Much appreciated. And I'll bring him up at the end so he can answer all of your hard questions. So first, I want to thank all of you who contribute to the cyber mission on a daily basis. You're an invaluable part of the department's workforce. You've shown your dedication to our nation, to public service, to the mission. They are able to be both lethal and agile, and we have an ever-evolving, complex digital environment that we're working in right now. So being able to have that agility and lethality is even more important today. Our ability to advance cyberspace operations really relies on you. Cyber underpins the ability of the rest of the joint force to be able to operate. Plus, you play an important role in terms of protecting Americans on a day-to-day basis. So there's really no higher calling in terms of the important work that we do across the cyber workforce. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we want to do to be able to support you, and like I said, hear your good ideas. I'm going to speak a little bit about what my team does, because everyone may not be familiar with our part of the organization and the role that we play supporting the Secretary, and then talk about why and how we can do more to develop our people. And then I want to end by highlighting a couple of superstars on my team that I've really learned a lot from, because I think they're exemplars of just the best and the brightest that we're able to bring into the department. So in my role as the Acting Assistant Secretary of Defense for Cyber Policy, which was a new ASD-ship established by Congress, who really wanted us to have a bigger focus on cyber, I lead a team who's responsible for a range of policy issues. And this goes from developing cyber strategies, cyber policy, playing a key oversight role in our cyber operations and how we organize, train, equip, resource our cyber operators. And that's a very important partnership that we have with Cybercom, especially as they've gotten some enhanced authorities. So I work very closely with General Hawk and his team to ensure that we're doing what we can from the policy perspective to be able to support the cyber operators. And then we also play roles in areas like building international partnerships as well, and thinking about how we make our allies and partners more secure, more capable. And so having them as a value add to our overall plan for how we tackle the actions of our adversaries is just a key part of what we're able to do within the Department of Defense. We coordinate these actions across the department. We coordinate very closely with other departments and agencies and really think through what are the different authorities we can each bring to bear when it comes to tackling the threats that we face today. But we really need to continue to take bold steps to empower our cyber warriors to be able to operate with even more capability and capacity in a rapidly evolving threat landscape. So I want to talk a little bit about why we need to develop our cyber workforce. Our lethality really hinges on the expertise of qualified cyber personnel. And it was raised earlier about Cybercom 2.0 and the work that we're going through in terms of thinking about the right way to generate forces, the right way to train our forces. And part of that is really focused on how do we increase the mastery? How do we ensure that we're moving beyond just a basic level of understanding and training and really developing those additional skills that we need to be able to counter the adversaries that we see today. So being able to provide that training is a really key part of what we're doing. We also are thinking about the fact that we need to recruit and cultivate that top tier talent through these training programs, through competitive scholarship opportunities, through many of the programs that Mark and his team are responsible for. So we work very closely with Cybercom, with CIO, with the services to figure out how can we bring in the brightest minds across the tech field who have a variety of skill sets and expertise that can really benefit from tackling some of the complex challenges we have at the department. And like I said, it's not just about the recruitment piece, it's really about building expertise over time and figuring out how we can develop more advanced training, familiarization with emerging capabilities, and really being able to build the workforce that we need to counter the challenges we are facing. We also have partnerships that we foster with academia and industry, and I think you'll hear more about that a little bit later today. But we want to really understand what are the best practices, how can we incorporate this into our toolbox? And so it's really about how do we place people at the forefront of our cyber strategy, because we're only as strong as the people within our workforce, and we want to think through how to be most effective in terms of building the strongest fighting force that we can. So I wanted to next pivot to talk a little bit about the realities of the operational environment that we're facing, including rapidly advancing digital technology. We see a rise in quantum computing. We see a proliferation of artificial intelligence. These are outpacing some of the traditional cyber security approaches to defense and deterrence. And today's cyber attacks are showing an even ever-increasing sophistication and broader impact globally. So we need to be mindful of that changing environment, and that's really driving us in terms of where we need to go with our cyber workforce. General Stanton talked a little bit about this from an infantry perspective, but the department used to be heavily reliant on a fortress mentality of firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and we've subsequently undergone a shift in our cybersecurity posture following some sophisticated cyber intrusions that we've had to deal with, such as Volt Typhoon, Colonial Pipeline. And as a result of that shift, the department is focusing its capabilities and resources on securing the data within the fortress as well. Practically, this means a relentless focus on identifying and securing the department's data and at the application and database layers. And in effect, the department is moving the security boundary from the network and the host layers closest to our most important resource, which is our data. The department has also placed a renewed emphasis on the warfighter as the weapon system. And this warfighter-centric approach leverages a well-trained and vigilant workforce, which is the most effective defense against a determined adversary. My team partners with department's leaders in this space to enable military advantages for the nation across the entirety of the cyber portfolio. So here's just a few things that we're currently working on. We're looking at partnering with Cybercom to ensure that our cyber mission forces have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to accomplish their mission in a constantly evolving threat landscape. So that's a little bit of the Cybercom 2.0 effort that we're working with the Secretary right now on. We're leading the department's efforts to establish cyber operations peculiar awards, thinking about how can we reward the people in our workforce, and working closely with CIO and others on thinking about some of those incentives and how best we can show our appreciation. We led a study on the occupational resiliency of the cyber workforce, and this is a really important part of how we think about taking care of our warfighters, and also how we look to increase the readiness of our cyber mission force. And as we look to the future of the cyber workforce, we need to work with our DoD partners and those across government and industry to drive initiatives that, one, establish clearly defined career paths, developing multiple specialization tracks, outlining progressive skill levels, training milestones, potential career progressions, and really showing people where can you go in this career field. Two is emphasizing the public-private cyber workforce cross-pollination. So thinking about how do you exchange some best practices? How do you have folks be able to go out to industry, learn from industry, come back in? How do you think about doing joint exercises together? How do you think about collaborative research projects? What are the different ways that we can collaborate? Three is partnering with U.S. Cyber Command and the services to look at ways to strengthen our recruiting and incentive models, thinking about how we can best retain our talent, noting, as General Stanton raised, the challenges with that and the fact that we need to build in some flexibility when it comes to our workforce. And then finally, in partnership with CIO, implementing targeted cyber leadership development programs, mentoring opportunities, and advanced training pipelines that allow us to build those highly capable professionals, and also be able to pair training with the very best capabilities that our partners in industry are able to provide. So next, I just want to take a moment and highlight two exceptional professionals on my team and tell you a little bit about their background, because I think it's illustrative of the type of people that we can bring into our workforce. And I'm sure all of you know a lot of people like them, but I just wanted to use this as an opportunity. So the first is United States Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Richard Vaccarello. So Rich is an example of somebody who has transitioned between industry and the military. For 8 years, he had an incredibly successful career on active duty with the Marine Corps, with joint qualifications in electronic warfare, including multiple combat tours, supporting Operation Iraqi Freedom, and time as a master instructor and curriculum developer at the Marine Corps Communications School in Quantico. He elected to participate in the Marine Corps' inaugural direct affiliation program, where he transferred to the Select Marine Corps Reserve to pursue a career in emerging technology and security engineering at a Fortune 5 company, and was able to gain knowledge, skills, and abilities required to secure e-commerce platforms, including their modernization through the adoption of cloud-based technology solutions. I'm going to pretend I understood what all of that meant, but really an impressive opportunity to be able to go out into industry and to gain that knowledge. And then in November of 2018, he was mobilized from the reserve component as an emerging technology professional and cyberspace planner in support of Operation Inherent Resolve, and assigned to Marine Corps Forces Cyberspace Command at Fort Meade. And then in December of 2020, he left the private sector, electing to return to active duty. And as I've talked to him, it's really about the mission and the type of jobs that you can only really do within the department. And so that drove him to come back, and he was selected as one of the first Marine officers to serve in a battalion-level command of a cyber combat mission team supporting a joint task force that was responsible for the development of non-kinetic and digital deterrent solutions. He now serves as my senior military assistant. He advises me on a daily basis on a whole range of issues, and he is really an example of what I think the department can benefit from in terms of individuals who have a strong commitment to public service, have the ability to go out, get that expertise in private industry, and then want to bring that back into the department. The second member of my team I want to talk about is Sophie Faberg-Anderson, who joined us through the Cyber Accepted Service System. This is an incredible personnel system that I'm sure Mark will talk more about tomorrow, and it allows us to really bring in some top talent into our workforce. So Sophie started off working at the MITRE Corporation. She partnered with U.S. government agencies to provide technical expertise and applied research to a range of different issues. She went off to graduate school at Harvard and then came away with a desire to really do more in the cyber policy realm. We were able to bring her onto our team in cyber policy for a period of time where she drafted policy, worked a lot on the intelligence support to cyber operations, and then finally we were able to work through the cyber accepted service system to bring her fully on board to our team, and she's now just making an incredible difference on the issues that she's working on. So these exceptional cyber warriors, and I'm sure so many of you in the audience and people that you know, they've capitalized on something that's truly unique and compelling that only the Department of Defense can offer, and that's the opportunity to defend the nation from the front lines of the digital battlefield. More than just a job, a career in DoD, and I've been in for 20 years as a civilian. It's really a calling to serve a higher purpose, to support the warfighter, to protect critical infrastructure, to safeguard national security, and ensuring the safety and security of American citizens. So we need to ensure that we continue to invest in our people as we think about that. Finally, in closing, I want to reinforce that our national security depends on a robust, lethal, and resilient workforce. And we have to continue to think about how we attract the top minds to be able to build out our expertise. I'm lucky enough to be able to partner with Cybercom, with CIO, with the services to really be able to champion the issues that you care about. And I really want to be able to hear from you, your ideas. What are the changes you want to see? How can we be more effective as a department? How can we partner better across government and industry? So with that, I'll pause and take your questions and ask Chief to come up and join me as well.
Great. So as we did earlier this morning, if you could come over to the mics at stage left or stage right over here, tell us your name, the organization you're with, and tell us your question. And Chief, I'm going to let you be in charge here. So watch the time. Watch the time. So because you're, as Miss Manning said, you're what, between us and lunch?
Yes.
Okay.
T minus 8 minutes go.
T minus 8 minutes go. So
Outstanding.
all right.
On the left first.
Susan Andre, DAF PCA. Ma'am, I appreciate your comments about putting people at the forefront. I also appreciated your reference to the reality of the operational environment. Can you talk a minute about what the ideal balance looks between building the individuals that General Stanton talked about that are credible, that are technically savvy, and the risk to operations by pulling them from ops so that they can build that level of credibility?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. I also took away from General Stanton's speech that I need to go learn how to code in Python. So perhaps that's what I'm doing next week. But I think there's a balance, and we think about this also in the context of growing our overall cyber operations force versus building the mastery within the force. So how do you really strike that right balance between the people you need to have on keyboards doing operations on a daily basis, but then ensuring you're able to continue to train and develop them? And I think it's hard when you're a military commander, you're given a mission that's very important for you to get after. You want to have people who are actively working on countering the threat, taking it, to our adversaries. But you have to build in that training piece. And I think that that's part of also what I've seen, at least on the civilian side, of what keeps folks motivated too. So how do you think about continuing to develop them and not just burning folks out, but really thinking about how can they get to that next stage of development? What really motivates them? Are there areas of, technology that they're particularly interested in? Is there a specialization that they could benefit from that would also benefit us? So I think it requires taking a bit of a step back and not just thinking about the urgent operations of today, but over time, how do we want to build and develop our force?
On the right, sir.
Hi, thank you. My name is Josh Margolin. I'm with the United States Indo-Pacific Command. And as we've moving forward in building out our cyber workforce, one of the things that's really important at INDOPACOM and at other COCOMs as well is what you mentioned earlier, partnership capacity building. So I guess my question is could you elaborate a little bit more on what the DoD CIO and what your office is doing to assist and support in training and building out workforce programs in support of our partnerships and in international relations. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll address it in one way and then tell me if it answers your question. So I think, one of the biggest advantages that we have as a country are our alliances and partnerships. And spent a lot of my career focused in your AOR, and the allies and partners we have there are an incredible force multiplier for us. And they're also critical when it comes to our ability to conduct operations. And so working with Japan and the Philippines and Korea and countries throughout the region to ensure, one, that they have strong cybersecurity practices, but then two, thinking about the integration of our operations and how we ensure that we build in that security is very important. So there's a lot of work that we do on the policy side in terms of building those relationships, thinking about where we can provide them tools, be it through security cooperation or other means to build out their capacity, and then thinking through how we do joint training exercises, how we build in the cyber component of it. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Stage left. Go ahead.
I just wanted to address on your balance between trying to advance our mission goals, but also putting in policy that establishes a standard. How do you draw that line where it's not too overbearing for the workforce, but also it provides the protections we need to our workforce?
I may ask Chief to jump in on this just because you've probably been a little bit closer to this issue.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to join you briefly. I guess what I would offer is that if you look at the totality of all things cyber across the DoD, there's a wide spectrum of what people actually do. And I think, so to answer your question, each bin of people doing different things needs a little bit different approach. And in partnership with our friends over at CIO, that's kind of how we look at it. And I'm going to tie in something that our Alexi talked about this morning. We have a lot of people creating cyberspace, managing it, securing it, and then he mentioned the apex predator mindset. There are some folks that are hacking into adversary networks on behalf of our nation, right? Those are engaging with the adversary day in and day out in a very different way than those who are creating the fundamentals of cyberspace and plugging things in like I used to at the beginning of my career. So taking care of those people and allowing them to develop and I guess do what they need to do in a way that bounds what the left and right boundaries of what they can do. It's just going to be a little bit different on the end of the spectrum. The far end, the apex predators, all about compliance and warfighting, compliance with policy. The rest of it is making sure things work.
Thank you.
Stage right.
Yeah, so General Stanton talked about really getting into the force of the future and moving left of boom and getting after the young men and women in high school, junior high school. One of the areas that I've studied is an area called cyber sociology. And that's really understanding the soft skills that are necessary to be effective in the workplace because they're unique human beings. Not everyone can do that job. So my question to you is, are you guys looking at understanding that cyber sociology, soft skills piece that would help you recruit the kind of people you need to have the warfighting ethos that General Stanton was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, that's a key part of what we're thinking through as we think about the assessment process. But let me turn it to Chief, who's probably lived this a little bit more closely than I have.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We care deeply about that. We being the Department of Defense, care about the human aspect of the people that are doing this mission. I like the first line of the Cybercom code. It's "We win with people," and understanding what impacts those people from all aspects matters a lot. We recently completed a congressionally directed study on occupational resiliency of the workforce and uncovered a lot of those things. And invite you to connect with us, and we can provide you that report if that'd be interesting to you. But what we find is to be a warfighter and a nerd is a unique combination of person.
I found my people finally.
It's kind of fun. We talk affectionately about being nerds on behalf of the nation, right? But that's a good thing, and it's a unique personality that required to succeed in this arena. So thank you for that question. I think we're just about at time. So if stage left, final question, please, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir. My name is Jenna White, and I'm the Division Chief at U.S. Cyber Command of Workforce Development and Head of Recruitment. And you asked what are some of our challenges that are hindering us from achieving our goals. Well, two of the biggest challenges are the reduction in force and also the hiring freezes. So all of these concepts are wonderful, and I'm part of Cybercom 2.0 in the talent management efforts. But are there any proposed solutions to preventing us from losing our top talent during these reductions in forces and preventing our top talent from coming on board during a hiring freeze? Over, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. And I'd ultimately defer to my colleagues who focus on personnel and readiness. But I would say that conversations we're having with leadership is about ensuring we don't lose momentum in terms of building a resilient cyber workforce. And I think there's a lot of support for our mission, for the important work that we do. So we need to figure out kind of what that right balance looks like over time. Thank you.